Hello, everyone. It is Sterling White here, and I am super excited about being able to provide you a Q&A. Ask me anything. I've got some questions that are actually already in here, so I'm just going to go over those and then go over some other ones that are just coming through this stream as well. Some of you may be looking at this as a recording, but this is officially live, and today is, July? I don't even know what day it is anymore. But yeah, so ask any questions that you have. I'm just going to give a little bit of background on myself. I have a few that have already started filtering in here, and I'm going to be posting this on several different platforms so I can deliver the most value to you all that are out there. So let's go ahead and jump right into everything, which if you are just now coming across me for whatever reason, that is completely my fault, of course. And so just backstory on myself is born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. And what I say is the not so good parts where you wouldn't want to walk your dog at night or even during the day on the east side of town. And also parts of the west side. Moved around quite a bit through my childhood and grew up in Section 8 housing, welfare, food stamps, and any other type of government assistance I'm sure my mother didn't tell me about. Love her to death. She did the best with what she could. And a single mother, both my brother and I, he is my twin. Fraternal. I don't think we look alike whatsoever, but other people tend to say we do. And so anything above and beyond just the standard living, such as the me wanting to be cool and impress the kids around, the new shoes that would come out, the fancy clothes, is I had to figure out how to earn money. And that's where the whole entrepreneurship spirit came into existence, where my first product in my elementary days was Kool-Aid. Second was Pokemon cards. And then was just playing cards and anything I could get my hands on to buy it low and then sell is how things came to fruition for myself personally in a legal sense with the things that I sold, because there was tons of illegal activity that was going around. And how I got started in the real estate field is 2009 on the construction side, where things were not going so well in the industry. My roommate at the time had drugged me into his construction company that his father owned. I was working as a laborer. One thing I want to say is I have huge respect for those guys, because that was definitely a grind and something not specifically for me. I was able to get more of hard work, definitely is in that specific niche. And at that time, I got my real estate bug. And I knew I wanted to be in real estate, but that specific part was not where I wanted to be. And then that's where I was shifting more to the investing side, where I was able to find a mentor who walked me along the process and the ins and outs of property management, how to buy residential property. We started with single family homes. He had apartments as well. And then fast forward to where I am now. Own just under 500 units. That's comprised of majority multifamily, and then the remaining is single family. And total valuation of that portfolio is over $26 million, and have raised over $11.5 million to fund those specific deals. And why I'm telling you this, not bragging by any means, because one, there is a team involved. It's not just myself. And two is I still make plenty of mistakes till this day. Not perfect by any means. I'll just give you a prime example of a mistake I just recently made on a deal currently working through, which is 150 unit in Indianapolis. My side, I'm not an underwriter, and I have but on the initial run through, I was a little bit too aggressive on the rents, in which after putting in the upgrades, repositioning the property, what we'd be able to get out of those, and formulated a verbal offer to the seller of the property. They accepted it, and then once they provided more financials, because they were a little bit hesitant on providing the financials, which is the trailing 12 the trailing 12, which is the past 12 months of profit and loss statements, and then also the rent roll. So once they provided that, we took another deep dive into the property tax assessment, which it kicks up significantly, and then also those aggressive rents that I had into play. We had to go back to the seller and request $1 million discount. That was not fun by any means, but luckily we were able to work the deal out and was able to meet in the middle, and it was still able to work for both parties. So I alluded to still make mistakes to this day, not perfect by any means. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions. Those of you who are watching this as it's recorded, and those of you who are live as well, either way, if I'm not able to get to your questions, just go ahead and comment below or send to sterling@sterlingwhiteofficial.com. That is sterling@sterlingwhiteofficial.com. So let's go ahead and just drop into everything. I'm always super animated and super excited. No caffeine for me today. If I have caffeine, I'm even more off the walls. But let's go ahead and jump into everything. First question is, how are you finding deals in today's market? Yes, from experience, others are having difficulties. Others are still crushing it right now in terms of on the acquisition side, especially on what I like to do is just simply go direct to owner, meaning that I have taken some, still established those relationships with those brokers and those agents, but just haven't had much success with that in terms of it penciling out on the numbers. There's multiple calls to offers, highest and best, and then our highest and best that we submit. Normally, the highest and best from another party is about 20 to 30% more than what we are able to pay. So on that side, we still look at deals on the market, but our bread and butter is just going, myself personally, direct to the owner of the property. And it's the primary channel is just picking up the phone and just doing the cold call. I know there's some of you that may be a little bit squeamish thinking of, how do I call a complete stranger? It's just one of those things that you yourself have to do if you're looking to go this route, or just end up hiring someone. And there's multiple services that you can leverage out there in order to get someone in there to make the calls for you. Of course, there's going to be a cost with that. Not too much, though. So that's the primary way. And how it sounds when picking up the phone is very simple. It's very simple, straight to the point. I'll just go right into the role playing. It's, hey, John, Sterling here. Wanted to personally reach out. I just closed on Bitwood Apartments right across the street from your property and wanted to see if you consider on selling. So very straight to the point. They throw out objection, not interested. You say, completely understand. I knew you were going to say that before I even called. Tell you what, give me 30 seconds. If you don't like what you hear, I'll be out of your hair. Sound fair? So that's just me going into the role playing, because from experience, you'll get kicked in the face quite a bit. It's about making a large amount of calls and speaking to quite a bit of number of individuals. It's a numbers game is what it comes down to. But to slim down it being just a numbers game and having a higher conversion is being able to take those objections and provide a rebuttal. Because what I've seen is many people take that objection to heart and just say, okay, well, if anything changes, please reach out to me in a couple of days, which a lot of times owners or sellers will not reach back out to you, especially in today's environment. This is where the whole follow-up comes into play, which is by far my favorite and where the money is made. So there's that on that first question. The second is where to find investors. This is probably the most sought out thing that's needed. Now, I would say people are on the reverse, have the investors, but don't have the deals, which is, you can say a good problem to have in a way versus the other way, but it still works about solving either problem. But with that is where to find investors is, one is starting with your power base, meaning that how I first started was through friends and family, through friends, and then the family and the friends of those family, meaning that my business partner was able to leverage his friends and family to bring the capital for us to start buying deals, and then those friends of those friends. And through that's how that originally started. And starting with your power base, meaning someone that is closer to you, colleagues, people you may see at church that you are associates, because they, from experiences, people do business with people that they know. So if you're able to leverage that side, starting with your power base, your inner circle, then that's good. But then in terms of going out of that circle, is you can go to local meetup groups, which every specific market and city has their own real estate investing groups. You can go there and network with others, because it all comes down to, which is my favorite book. One of my favorite books was Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. And it talks about give, then go for the ask. So when you're attending these real estate meetups, is to determine how you can be of value to someone. So many of the times there's wholesalers at these real estate meetups, but there's also people that are looking to find deals and fund deals and partner with people. And through that is just understanding, what are you looking to achieve at in your career or where you're currently at. And then that's where you bring the value piece, meaning that I'll just give you a prime example for me. Is my very first deal, how that was acquired was, my mentor at the time was looking to diversify from a commercial, so multifamily, to single family to single family home investing. So at that time, my weakness and what I had to overcome essentially was, I had the time to find the deals, but I didn't have the cash. He had the cash but didn't have the time. So that's how the value exchange was. I found what his problems were and what he was looking to achieve, and then just bridge the gap. And then that's the same when you're going to these meetups, is how to find investors. Because if someone is looking for deals but they're not able to find deals, you bring a good deal, then there's your investor partner. They could either buy it from you, or they can bring the equity and partner with you in exchange. You give them a piece of the deal. So that's it there. And then leveraging BiggerPockets. BiggerPockets is a phenomenal source. It's completely free. I'm not affiliated by any means. I do contribute content, but I don't get paid to mention anything about BiggerPockets. So with that, completely free resource, and it's just taking the offline approach to leveraging, make sure my mic's all good to go, leveraging the offline side of the networking that I alluded to, with determining just relationship building rapport with others that are in the space, but also seeing what the value proposition that you can bring. And then the same thing with leverage on BiggerPockets is just online, is just reaching out to individuals that are in your market or even other markets to see how you can bring value to that individual, and just not take, hey, I have a deal, why don't you invest in it? And this is the first time you've ever reached out. That's probably not going to go so well, in terms of they most likely won't respond. So if you're able to build that relationship and that rapport to where you become trusted, because people do what I've noticed is people do business with what they know, who they know, and the most known individual, like the most known businesses, even they have a not so good product, still trump the other ones, because they're more known through all their marketing efforts. So there's that on that question. Next one is, how was the structure of your first deal? This one was on the single family side. We'll start with the single family. We may go into the multifamily side too, but on the single family, is how that was, is it was a single family house, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, with a unfinished, what do you call that? Basement. Gosh, I couldn't even remember what that was. Unfinished basement, and with a detached garage. Bought it for $25,000. Yes, $25,000. This house was not completely run down. I know people that are on the West Coast or even the East Coast are like, $25,000 for a house. Are you sure it wasn't a shed? No, this was a decent house, and probably you definitely wouldn't be able to get that for $25,000 now. But put a additional $25,000 into it. So it was found through a local wholesaler, which you can get good deals from wholesalers at that time. And so my partner brought the $25,000 to fund it, and then additional $25,000 to take care of improvements because it needed new flooring, it needed paint throughout, the kitchen cabinetry needed to be updated. The unfinished bathroom had some flooding, so I had to take care of that. So there was quite a bit of, it needed some work essentially. So through that, how we structured it is 85% equity was on his side for bringing the capital, and then the remaining 15% was on my side. And this was in the event of a sale, 85% would go to him, 15% to me, and then also out of the cash flow as well. How that was structured. And that house rented for $850 after we got through all those repairs. So that's how that was on that very first deal. And in exchange for that 15%, not just bringing the deal, I also did the the leasing, managed the contractors, managed the closing of the transaction with the title company. So that 15% was sweat equity. And also I bypassed a wholesale fee to retain equity as well, because I was thinking more on the long term. So that's on my very first deal. And on that side, on the multifamily apartment, the first one when made the transition, so went straight from single families. I would say the largest multifamily was a duplex, well, just 2 units, and then just skipped right up to a 46 unit. Really wanted to get that economies of scale, and how that was structured was $900,000 for the 46 units. $200,000 was put down to acquire it, and the seller provided $700,000 in terms of it was seller finance. Well, not quote unquote. It was seller financing, and that $700,000 was a mortgage was recorded on that, and then an additional $685,000 was raised to take care of improvements. So that's pulling back the curtain on that. And now through the complete reposition on that first 46 unit and have it on the market to sell it at this moment. And now it's through the final phases of just had the inspection, and it's a 1031 buyer that's on that. So everything seems to be promising. Did not anticipate selling that specific property, but it was more management intensive than we had originally expected. So, and we're also moving up to larger apartments. So that's on the first single family deal and also the first multifamily deal. The next question is scared. It says scared to make a cold call. Now what? What do I do? Gosh, I as cheesy as it sounds, it's like Nike, just do it. Super cheesy, and I know that doesn't help whatsoever. But it just comes down to, if you're not able to make the calls personally yourself, then you'll just have to simply get someone in there to make the calls for you. Either you're going to offer them, either you're going to just pay them out of pocket, either you're just going to have to pay them, meaning whatever the cost is that they're willing to do it for you for, or you can give them, if you don't have the cash to start up, and also if you don't have the cash to be able to pay someone, then you'll just have to offer one of the ways is just to offer them a piece of the deal once you actually do close on it, or they get paid once you close the deal. So that's the route, but it just comes down to is not letting that be a barrier to, if you're going to decide to make a cold call, you just have to, myself personally, I've always just reverse engineered what the problem is and not look at it as a obstacle and just say, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's an obstacle. It's about reverse engineering is, okay, how can I do this? Is the approach I would highly recommend how to look at it. So if you're not able to make the cold calls for whatever reason, and you're just not going to stick through it, and you just don't have that big enough why to still make those calls. Because myself is, even to this day, making a cold call, well, let's say making a cold call is not necessarily an issue for me, but following up with some owners that just hung up on me a couple days prior to is not fun whatsoever, but I still make the call anyway, because not only does you just never know in this space, because I'll give you a prime example. Reached out to a husband and wife. on a multifamily property. I was in Cincinnati. They said they would never sell anytime soon and plan on holding on to the property for the long term. And for that, as I just simply let that and was going to follow up, I would say about 5 to 6 months later. And they ended up experiencing a divorce. Unfortunate as that is, but and then that's when another buyer swooped in 2 months later, ended up buying the deal. So that was a lesson learned on that specific transaction, and I always just have it on my radar to follow up, even when someone says they will absolutely not sell whatsoever. Prime example, that 46 units that didn't plan on selling that specific property at all, and ended up selling it just due to wanting to scale up even more. So you just never know. And using myself as a case study by an apartment I own. So next one is, my credit is bad. How do I get a loan? My credit is bad. How do I get a loan? So it depends on the specific. This virtually works is if you're applying to get a car or rent a apartment unit or apply. It's the same principle. So just simply getting a cosigner in real estate, it's different, especially on the multifamily side. You call it a key principle, but it's just, I need to drink some water. It's just having someone that is able to sign on to the loan that has those specific credentials that you do not have. And oftentimes you may have to give up a what do you call that? A piece of the deal in order for that person to essentially sign on to that specific deal that you have. So we're going to see what I see. There's some additional questions that are rolling in here, trying to get to them all quite a bit. So yeah, that's on the key principle side with being able to find someone to bring onto your deals. And then this one that's right here is, how do I know what to pay for a property? Okay, so this is you can say a loaded question in a way. There's, I would say, plenty of directions you can go with this, but it's just about reverse engineering where you want to be in terms of, let's say you're flipping a house, and you, in terms of what you can pay for the property, is the ARV, the after repair value. And you can find after repair value by coordinating with a agent and seeing what their recommendations are that they can sell the property for, and then looking at comparable properties to that specific one that you are putting the renovations in, and then selling it to a retail buyer. But through that is, one more question. Okay, if it's on after repair value is $300,000, and you want a specific profit margin, and let's say it's going to take $100,000 to take care of the improvements for the property, and you want a specific spread, then knowing those, the after repair value, what your profit is that you want, along with what the renovations are that you're going to have to put into it, that'll allow you to back into your purchase price. As simple as that. And on the buy and hold side is, myself personally like to look at the specific parameters of the cash on cash, and then also the internal rate of return. So don't want to get too sophisticated, but just knowing what the property is currently operating at, and then knowing what the renovations are, because I'm more of a value add play is what I like to do on apartments. And my primary criteria is multifamily that's between 75 to 200 units that are in working class, so C-class assets built between 1970 to about 1985, so very targeted. And through that is, when looking at those specific deals and analyzing, is I know what the cash on cash is that I want to get to, along with the internal rate of return, which you can get that from specific underwriting. Luckily, I have a partner that does all the underwriting on the deals. He crushes it on that side. And when you have all that, is what the property is currently operating at, and then what you're going to need to put into it to push it up to whatever your specific cash on cash is going to be, and also your internal rate of return, which people have different metrics that they like to go for. Those are my specific ones. But once you have that, that'll allow you to simply back into your purchase price. So hopefully that made sense. If not, comment below and I'm more than happy to further elaborate on that. Just don't want to go too much into the nuts and bolts to kind of lose people on. But it's just about determining what your goal is, such as either if you're going for a 12% cash on cash and you have to put in $1 million into the property in order to get to that, then that will allow you to back into your purchase price to be able to get to that specific figure. Because if you end up paying too much and you put that all $1 million into the property, and then it's only kicking off a certain amount of cash flow, and your return is actually cash on cash is 6%, then you should have just reduced the price or pushed up the rents a little bit more. But hopefully you did your calculations to determine that there is no room to push up your rents, if that was the case and you tapped yourself out. But hopefully that little tangent made sense. But yeah, those are the primary questions that I have that came in. I do truly appreciate everyone. And one thing I want to mention that I'm super excited about, it's actually officially launched. It's not on iTunes just yet, still awaiting approval, is my podcast, The Real Estate Experience. So would love for you all to go check that out. It is The Real Estate Experience. One more time, is The Real Estate Experience. You can find that on iTunes later this week, but right now it's on other platforms such as Google Play, SoundCloud, WorldStar. Just joking about the WorldStar, definitely not on WorldStar. I'm unsure if WorldStar is actually still around, but yeah, so I do truly appreciate everyone who is on here. And if I was not able to get to your questions, because some of you may be viewing this at a later point, comment below. I'm more than happy to be of value to you. And then if you want to send it directly to me, just shoot over sterling@sterlingwhiteofficial.com. That is sterling@sterlingwhiteofficial.com. So go out there and crush it. Be great. Thank you. All right.